Hello, I'm going to read a poem, a history poem. It's adapted from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Just to set the scene very quickly, Mick McCarthy had come back from the World Cup in 2002 after the big Saipan incident where half the country hated him because of Roy Keane walking out and half the country supported him. Eamon Dunphy, who was on the RTE panel and had done a biography of Keane, was naturally anti-McCarthy, and he tried to do everything in his power to get McCarthy sacked. Anyhow, the first two games after the World Cup were European qualifiers, and we lost the first against Russia and we lost the second against Switzerland, and the knives were out. It's a very long one, so. Once upon a midnight bloody lounged McCarthy in his study, pondering the harsh, unholy portents of the night before. Wounded deep by Hakan Yakin, press suggesting he was lackin, conspiring to demand his sackin, this knave let out a hollow roar. They might well demand his sacking, quoth McCarthy, one game more. As he lolled upon his cushions, contemplating Swiss and Russians, thoughts of Saipan filtered brusquely, conjured up from days of yore. Through the murky mists came hobblin, with a football madly bobblin, a vision of the Mayfield goblin, striding through that hotel door. Grinning madly, that foul goblin smiled and whispered, Nevermore. As he dozed, consumed and troubled, dreadfully the vision doubled, and another wizened figure strode triumphant across the floor. To the poor untutored layman pranced a single-minded shaman. 'Twas the scheming, whistling Eamon, Dunphy, ballpoint to the fore. Then that mystic, wrinkled Eamon, Dunphy, whispered, Nevermore. Assaulted by this smirking twosome, with their accents stark and gruesome, McCarthy woke with brow perspiring, beads of sweat through every pore. And as he ceased his nervous napping, he thought he heard a tiny rapping through the night come tap, tap, tapping hard upon his study door. Who on earth is tap, tap, tapping? Angrily he did implore. Like a most disgruntled rhino swept he swiftly o'er the lino, and with scarce concealed impatience grasped the handle of the door. Then this sad and lonely figure flung the door ajar with vigour, and though he thought he heard a snigger, deep black night was all he saw. Did I really hear a snigger? Quoth McCarthy, nothing more. Worried now, he hesitated, thwarted by his ghosts, frustrated, till at last his patience snapping, violently he slammed the door. But as the clock resumed tick-tocking, fancied he heard a knocking, barely heard and faintly mocking, mocking as McCarthy swore. Who is this so faintly mocking? Came a small voice, Nevermore. This is not imagination, cried McCarthy with frustration. Someone close is out there standing hard upon me study door. Thus the bold McCarthy reckoned, as he paused for just 1 second, till once more the small voice beckoned from the night's Plutonian shore. Softly now the small voice beckoned, softly chiding, Nevermore. McCarthy wrenched the door with passion in a most ungodly fashion, the pulse within his temple throbbing, senses shaken to the core. And as he scratched his chin unshaven, through the door there stepped a craven, hollow-eyed, ungodly raven, with a most distinctive caw. Cackled this ungodly raven quite distinctly, Nevermore. Up on Charlton's bust it fluttered, as McCarthy darkly uttered oaths not heard in heaven, nor upon Nirvana's shore. Showing scant regard for fleeing, there it perched, with eyes unseeing, staring at the human being standing there with slackened jaw, sneering at the human being, as it murmured, Nevermore. McCarthy stared at this black vision, bereft of logic and decision. Something in the bird's demeanour stuck fast in his stubborn craw. The accent that foul bird had uttered, as it upwardly had fluttered, was surely that which Corkmen uttered, according to the rebel lore. McCarthy blanched when Corkmen muttered, Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Get thee hence, ungodly creature, cried McCarthy like a preacher, exorcising demons in a tableau from a holy war. But the raven perched there tightly, 3 days stubble quite unslightly, cruciate ligaments flexing lightly, face towards the study door. McCarthy's face was flushing brightly, quoth the raven, Nevermore. Are these the only words you're able to impart, blackbird of fable? Have you learned them, parrot fashion, from a most obtuse macaw? Seest thou not that I wish statue, leave me big Jack Charlton statue? Go now, quit my habitat, you are not welcome, that's for sure. Please now, leave my habitat, you. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. The raven's eyes burned with cold fire. What, McCarthy did inquire, is the reason for your rapping, tapping on my study door? I have work that needs attending. Faxes urgently need sending. A coach's work is never ending, especially when results are poor. The Swiss made fun of our defending. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Then McCarthy saw this raven was a harbinger, a craven, doom-strewn messenger of fortune sent to speak eternal law. Round the study blind he lumbered, Ireland's future unencumbered, for his days were shortly numbered. Resignation lay in store. He realized his days were numbered. As the bird spoke, Nevermore. To this day it sits besmirching Charlton's bust, ungainly perching in McCarthy's study blithely, still of eye and sharp of claw. Despite the fire, the room grows colder. Sits it there, darker, bolder, 2 big chips upon each shoulder, staring blindly at the door. Will McCarthy move that boulder? Cries the raven, Nevermore. Thank you. That's a very long one.